Hello and welcome. I'm Susan.
And I'm David.
And welcome to our brand new podcast, The Furniture Whisperer. Today, amongst other things, we're going to be talking about a whore's drawers, another term for a mystery behind a rather fascinating piece of furniture that David has discovered. And of course, his entire life as a furniture and antiques dealer, the stories have been part of his own amazing life story too. So let's get into it. The past 70-odd years have taken us on a very long journey, from the post-World War II baby booms through the halcyon days of the consumer era to what we're now calling, apparently, the post-growth era. At any rate, it's a very uncomfortable time for almost everybody today because everything seems to have been stood on its head. But through all the upheavals and associated with all of these social developments, the appreciation for fine English antique furniture has basically remained the same. Thank goodness for that, because it is some of the most extraordinary material that has ever been crafted in this country. The classic investor in antique furniture is often seen as being your wealthy manor house owning individual whose furniture, when they buy the antique furniture, looks very much at home in their manor houses or their second residence or whatever, because it would have been made for that kind of architecture, for that type of building. But in fact, they are not the only collectors of antiques. Antique dealers are also collectors of antiques, and we're going to be looking at that as well. And they are not the only representative people who collect items of antique furniture and so on, because people may start an antique collection with something very small or something that they've been looking for a very long time, perhaps a very nice antique dinner service, for example, and they may spend years just looking for one item, and that's it, that's all they have, but that's their collection. And some people might be looking for a piece of embroidery or a pair of silver candlesticks, some rare item that's going to be of lasting value to them. But antique furniture, at its very finest, is a unique combination of design, artwork, and the maker's craft, executed in some extraordinary materials, but we'll go into that later on as well. In this podcast series, we're going to go behind the scenes of one of England's most respected antique dealers, W.R. Harvey & Co. Antiques Limited. And they're celebrating their Diamond Jubilee this year. This is 75 years since the company was started in 1951. And the current owner, David Harvey, who inherited the business from his father, who founded it, is going to explain, amongst other things, how it all began and what recycling has to do with it, and how he has developed an unerring instinct for pieces of exceptional value that at first glance might not look very special at all. So, David, this is our first episode of The Furniture Whisperer, and it's very exciting. I've watched many of your masterclasses on specific pieces that you've done over the years. There are many of them. There are 80 of them, I think, or more than 80. And as well as the informal videos that you make when you've got a nice piece that's just come in and you want to give your newsletter readers a bit of a sneak peek, and you'll make a little informal video and so on. And these pieces are all absolutely fantastic. And I'm really interested in the pieces themselves, but also in the background behind what it is you look for, how you got here, what you did, what is a collector, and all of the things that we never really see when we walk into an antique shop. And in this episode, we're going to be looking at one, or thinking about at least one particular piece which is in your showroom at the moment, Mrs. Rudd's dressing table, and how it relates to the American War of Independence. This is going to be something quite interesting, I can assure you. But first off, David, tell us a bit about the early days of W.R. Harvey Antiques. I mean, how and where did it all begin?
After the Second World War, and after he'd been demobilised from the British forces, my father saw service with the 16th 5th Lancers, and he set up an import-export company with my mother. He was getting into all the consulates throughout the world, sending material to them about what he could supply, who his suppliers would be, the quality of merchandise that he wanted to deal in, and so on. And gradually more and more people were coming back and saying, can you source some good antique furniture from all over the place? Because of course so many countries had been ravaged by the Second World War, and they were seeking, if you like, to replace uncertainty with surety. And so gradually he started dealing in antiques. And they set up the Antiques Company in 1951 in literally one shop in Chalk Farm in London, just opposite the Roundhouse. And it grew and grew and grew from there. So after many years being in Chalk Farm, where my father was lucky enough to be able to acquire the freehold of the whole property, and we ended up with 14 showrooms there, full of good English antique furniture, plus our own warehouse and our own workshops for restoring antiques. From there, we moved to number 5 Old Bond Street, right in the heart of Mayfair, almost exactly halfway between Sotheby's and Christie's. So the whole world of collectors would walk past our front door, and many of them came in and have been wonderful friends and clients ever since. And so back in 1996, with only 2 years left on our lease, the freehold property here in Witney became available, and it offered me the opportunity to give up paying a large rent to the mighty Prudential Corporation and 3 hours a day commuting to my then home. So it was not a very difficult choice to make, particularly since I had an offer on the leasehold that we had at number 5 Old Bond Street. And so we moved here to this charming Georgian market town of Witney, where we really are part of the community here. And that's how it all started and moved on. My father spent many years travelling all over the continent and America, building up all his contacts, going from using a box Brownie camera for photographing the stock to a Polaroid camera, which he came back from the United States with, not surprisingly, to where we are today, where we use a little computer called an iPhone and take photographs that just about do us justice. And the markets have changed dramatically over that period, but that's probably the subject for another one of these podcasts.
Indeed.
But
yes.
it's been a long and very interesting journey. I actually started back in the company back in 1971, and after a couple of years was asked to set up an antiques department in a very large furnishing store in Hamburg, and so went over to Germany for a year, which stood me in good stead and gave me a lot of new contacts, and then came back over to England, where my father said, can I possibly help him out just for a couple of weeks? A couple of weeks turned into the rest of my life, and I've never had such fun.
I remember you saying that you can't wait to rush to work every morning because it's such exciting work.
You never know what today is going to bring.
Yes, it's always different, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So the tradition of preserving and collecting antique furniture is very much still important today, isn't it? And why is that?
For many people, we seem to be living in a disposable age, where you can buy things today knowing they're only going to last for a couple of years and then you throw them away.
Yeah.
Antique furniture is different. I deal in pieces that may date from as early as the 1650s right the way through to the 1850s. And it really is remarkable how these pieces have survived that length of time, and they lend themselves to being recycled, which is exactly what I do. I take a piece in where the hinges might just need the screws tightening, whereas if you look at modern furniture from stores, the doors tend to start drooping after 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And because they're made of medium density fiberboard, they can't be repaired, they can't be replaced, and when you move house, you don't bother to take them with you. Whereas with antique furniture, you do take it with you. You move with your collection, or your collection moves with you. And it's nice in the day and age when so many things are disposable to be able to collect things that actually will benefit your children and your grandchildren, and may lead to them becoming collectors in the future as well.
Well, I know children enjoy collecting things like football cards and little figurines from packets of cereal or whatever. The urge to collect is actually very strong, isn't it, in everybody?
Well, I can remember as a child growing up collecting dinky toys and corgi toys.
Exactly.
Some of those are now going for huge amounts of money at auction. And I wish I'd never got rid of my little collection of cars, but hey, time moves on.
And the items have got bigger, if I look around me in the showrooms. They're not dinky toys or very small cars or anything like that. They are fairly large items of furniture.
You try putting a table and 6 chairs into the back of a dinky toy.
So the thing about disposability and items that cannot be really used or adapted to the environments in which we live at the moment, is this, I mean, how does that actually affect your choice of what you're going to be buying and showing in your showrooms? Do you have certain people in mind that you look at something and you think, oh, that's a young couple, they've moved fairly recently, they've got their own place now, and I know that they told me the last time they were in the shop, they told me that they were looking for something special. Does that inform your search?
The same has been true for many, many years. As I say, my parents started the business back in 1951 in Chalk Farm. Typically, a young couple, recently married, with a flat in Hampstead in London, would buy a circular table and a set of 4 chairs for the dining room, or for the dining area, shall we say. And then you move on 10 years, and they've got 2 children. He's moved up in the world, she's moved up in the world, and they're earning more, and they're buying a house out in Mill Hill or Totteridge or Barnet or wherever in North London, and their house is of a different dimension. So the table and 4 chairs came back to us for a table and a set of 8 chairs, an extending dining table and a set of 8 chairs, all of which is wonderful. And then another 20 years goes by. The children have grown up, been to university, got good jobs, are buying their own properties. So mum and dad are selling their house in North London and buying a smaller property on the edge of town or even out in the country, where they might want, guess what? Smaller furniture again. And so those pieces come back again. So there is this very circular motion with antiques, and this is endorsed by the fact that antique furniture, as it was then second-hand furniture in the 18th century and the early 19th century, would have been given away by parents to their children as a dowry for marriage.
Right.
So it has social context as well, but it is this circular movement that's wonderful to see. And we've been dealing with some of the same families for 2 and 3 generations.
Amazing.
And I'm still buying pieces back that my father sold in the 1950s.
Goodness me. Goodness me. And we're probably going to get to that as well, because we're going to get to the juicy part. This is going to be the juicy part, the whore's drawers, or the courtesan's cupboard, or the escort's escritoire. It's Mrs. Rudd's dressing table. So let's get into the secret behind Mrs. Rudd's dressing table, which is going to be on show at your upcoming exhibition, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So you're going to tell us all about that.
It's going to be one of the stars of the show, if I can put
Right.
it like that. Margaret Caroline Rudd. She was born over in Ireland, and she married a Captain Rudd who was with the British Army in Ireland at the time. She was always a bit headstrong, if I can put it like that. Before marrying Captain Rudd, she, if I can put it like this, serviced most of the regiment, and
Ooh.
then married Captain Rudd, who moved back over to England with her, and within a short space of time she'd managed to spend all his money, and he went into the debtor's prison. So there she was, without a husband and an income.
That was quite serious in those days, wasn't it, the debtor's prison?
Oh, yes.
It was sort of next to, basically, to killing somebody. It was a really
It was a
dreadful
horrible
thing.
experience. So she became a very high-class courtesan, and she was a society person. And she was chased all over London by the likes of Boswell, and she managed to get money by telling all her followers that they had fathered her children. So she was getting multiple incomes in child support, if I can put it like that. And she also bought a property, a house in Harley Street in London, for £4,000. No small sum in the 1770s.
Indeed.
And as time went on, she variously pawned her jewellery and then bought it back again when times looked up, then pawned it again and bought it back again, and her life was somewhat up and down, if you'll pardon the expression. And she came to the point where she started issuing forged cheques, notes, promissory notes. London had been through a couple of major financial scandals, and it was always the case that a man's word was his bond. And anybody who issued a fake promissory note was considered to be the worst form of life. She gave the promissory notes, or two of these promissory notes, to a couple of young men who she had befriended, brothers, the Perot boys. And they took them to the bank, and the bankers said, yes, okay, fine, come back tomorrow and we will have the money ready for you. One of the bankers recognised straight away that these promissory notes were in fact forgeries, because he knew the person that was supposed to have written the cheques, and he recognised that the signature was not correct. So the following morning when the boys turned up, the magistrates were there to arrest them, and they were taken into custody, and this was in 1775. The trial that ensued for forging notes was massively viewed by people. They queued around the Old Bailey, around the whole block, to get in to see Mrs. Rudd and the Perot boys giving evidence. She denied that she'd ever had anything to do with it. It was nothing to do with her, that this was just the Perot boys being silly or whatever. She got away with it. She flirted outrageously, apparently, with the judge. And the Perot boys were found guilty. A terrible, terrible crime. She got off scot-free. She also stood trial and was not convicted. That was in 1775. Early in 1776, in January, on the coldest, bitterest January night, the Perrot boys were taken out from jail to Tyburn to be hanged by the neck until dead. 30,000 people from London turned out to see the spectacle.
Goodness.
The reporting of the trial and the hanging and the aftermath and the story of Mrs. Rudd was paramount in all the newspapers in London during 1775 and 1776 as well. It knocked the American War of Independence, and the forthcoming War of Independence, I should say, almost off all the almost all the newsprint of the time.
Mm-hmm.
It was really big news. In fact, it was the 18th century equivalent of the O.J. Simpson trial over in the United States 200 years later.
Right.
So, and that's part of the story of Mrs. Rudd and her dressing table. There is a lot more I could say about it. I've done a lot more research, and since I had the table the second time and the third time, I've also read the 2 books that have been written about Margaret Caroline Rudd and the Perrot boys and the trial. It's fascinating. And it's one of so many wonderful stories behind the people who owned the furniture.
Extraordinary. So if that dressing table could tell a tale, or a few tales, imagine what it has witnessed.
Well, the table is, as you say, a dressing table. It has pop-up mirrors and little compartments for keeping powders and perfumes and heaven knows what in.
You featured that as well, haven't you?
And what it also has is it has a fitted writing drawer where it is reputed that Caroline Rudd sat and wrote out the forged notes before giving them to the Perrot boys.
My goodness. Yes, that certainly is a fantastic story and a fabulous history. And that's going to be in your upcoming exhibition.
Absolutely,
the Diamond Jubilee exhibition.
Yeah.
Right. And would you like to give us some details? The 30th of May, I think it is.
The exhibition starts on the 30th of May and it will run until the 13th of June.
Okay.
Except for Sundays, which, if I'm here, I'm happy to open by appointment.
Right. So you can't just knock on the door and hope that somebody's going to open up. They'll have to email you beforehand or
because
give you a call.
as an antique dealer, I work most days of the week, so Sundays is my day off. It's when I do the shopping and the cooking.
That's what has to be done.
Together.
So that has been a fascinating glance behind the scenes of what a real antique dealer actually does. Is it an antique dealer or an antiques dealer?
The phrase antique dealer makes me sound terribly old.
That's kind of what I thought.
An antiques dealer is a dealer who deals in antiques.
Quite, exactly. And we've got another episode coming up in a week or so where we're hoping that we won't have the technical challenges that we have at the moment, possibly still, but we're hoping that those technical challenges are going to have been surmounted. We're going to be looking at a 250-year-old laptop. Is that correct, David? A 250-year-old laptop, which we will go into, of course, in the next episode. We don't want to tell them everything in advance, do we?
But there is a very interesting American connection to that one too.
Okay.
More next week.
Right, absolutely. And I think we've got a subscribe button that we're going to do, that we're going to be using. So hit the subscribe button so that you can get next week's episode as well. What about your mailing list?
Do you mean the newsletter?
The newsletter mailing list. Do you want to tell everybody about the newsletter mailing list?
Many years ago, I started off writing a newsletter, sent it round to, I don't know, probably about 50, 60 people, and featured some of the activities that were going on in my life as an antique dealer or antiques dealer. Gradually it grew and grew and grew, and it now goes to well over 1,000 people worldwide. And I try to produce a newsletter almost every week.
And what about if they want to subscribe to it? Where do they go?
If they go to our website at www.wrharvey.com, there is a button there, and you can subscribe to that, and also to the masterclasses which you mentioned earlier.
Exactly.
And as I acquire fresh pieces, so I tend to feature them in the newsletter first and foremost to give my regular clients and friends, if you like, a sneak preview.
Right, as I mentioned before. I'm always fascinated. I think they're wonderful, wonderful little views into something that has really caught your eye, and then you've said, but I can't wait to have it restored or whatever. I want it out there now. I want its first little peek out there now, and that is fascinating.
And it's one of those odd things. I enjoy polishing good shoes because I think they just look wonderful when they've been freshly polished. Exactly the same is true of antique furniture or brass candlesticks or glass, decanters, whatever. If you can polish something with a little bit of elbow grease and bring it back to the way that it really should look, it's a wonderfully gratifying experience.
Fantastic. So, and you're also on Instagram.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
You have an Instagram presence, masterclasses, mailing list. My goodness me, we can find you all over the place. And now a podcast. But a podcast not about individual pieces necessarily, but about the life and times of an antiques dealer. So, but I do think still all of those media, all of the online presence, etc., it's all very fine and good. But where is the best place to find a good piece of antique furniture?
Here at Harvey's.
I thought you might say that.
And it's also, when I look at a piece, and you mentioned this earlier, when I look at a piece, it's the ability to look at something that might have been in a smoky room with open fires, with people smoking cigarettes, cigars, pipes, and being able to look through the finish that is on there to see what is underneath, to understand the figuring, the colour, the grain, the potential that a piece has when you just provide a little bit of cleaning to it.
Hence the furniture whisperer, because these pieces will tell David a story that might not be immediately evident to anybody else. So, David, can you tell us a little bit more about the masterclasses? You're giving live masterclasses during the exhibition, the upcoming exhibition.
Yeah. The idea of masterclasses was something that came to me a few years ago, and it started off as being just our own channel on YouTube with videos on there. We're progressing that by having 3 masterclasses during the exhibition. Each Saturday, that's the 30th of May, the 6th of June and the 13th of June, at 3 p.m, I will be holding a masterclass here in the showrooms. The first one is going to be 75 years surrounded by beautiful antiques, a life in the trade. The second one is going to be all about Mrs. Rudd, Georgian forgery and the Perot boys, as we've talked about. And the third one is going to be on the 13th of June, and it's going to be Marquetry to Metamorphic, a journey through 2 centuries, because that's what the exhibition is all about. The exhibition is all about the pieces that we love having over that 2 centuries, from 1650 to 1850.
Fantastic.
And that is why it's called Marquetry to
Metamorphic. Fantastic. Thank you. And so if you want to find out more about all of this, and also for next week's episode, find out more about the 250-year-old laptop, then do please tune in again. We'd love to see you again. Thank you.
Thank you.